This Kia EV6 and this Ford Mustang Mach-E have a lot more in common than just the GT badge. Both are crossover SUVs. Both can easily fit a family of 4. Both can do the 0 to 100 km/h acceleration time in less than 4 seconds. And both happen to be all electric. But asking someone to spend $100,000 on a Kia or Ford badge model can be a tough sell. So, is the EV6 GT or the Mustang Mach-E the better buy? Well, at the end of this video, you're going to find out. The Kia EV6 GT is priced at $99,590 before on-road costs, while the Mustang Mach-E GT is $5,400 more expensive at $104,990. Look, I get it. A 5.5% difference isn't all that much when dropping $100,000 on a car, but think about it. That money is going to get you a lot of electricity to keep these cars running. Regardless, both these cars are aggressive-looking EVs, and they come with a stacked equipment list to justify that high price tag. Both models come with LED exterior lighting, a powered tailgate, rear privacy glass, dual zone climate control, interior ambient lighting, keyless entry, and a push-button start. The biggest spec difference of note is that the EV6 GT features a sunroof, whereas the Mustang Mach-E has a panoramic glass roof that looks and feels decidedly more premium. It's honestly hard to split the pair on price and equipment. Both come fully loaded with all the mod cons you'll want in a new car, with the Ford edging out the Kia in just a few nice-to-have features. But the deciding factor for me is that the EV6 comes with a home charging cable, whereas with the Mustang Mach-E GT, it doesn't. In fact, Ford doesn't even offer one, and you have to go to a third party to buy such a cable. I get that you wouldn't be buying an EV unless you have a charging solution already, but it is one of those handy-to-have items when traveling away from home. From the outside, you can tell both of these models are futuristic EVs because they've both got closed-off grilles and aerodynamically optimized bodywork, but I wouldn't call either of these cars pretty. To distinguish the GT from the rest of the EV6 range, there's neon green painted brake calipers, while the body-coloured wheel arches, gloss black exterior highlights, flush-fitting door handles and 21-inch wheels carry over from the mid-spec GT line. The Mustang Mach-E also uses splashes of colour to signal its sporting intent, with red-painted Brembo brake calipers and GT-specific scuff plates, as well as 20-inch wheels. You can also tell these are future forward EVs because neither have traditional pull-to-open door handles. The EV6 has flush-fitting handles that pop open when you unlock the car to give you something to grab onto, whereas the Mustang Mach-E has buttons that will pop the doors open. Exterior design is such a personal preference though, and to be honest with you, I'm not leaning towards the EV6 or the Mustang Mach-E aesthetically. But what do you think? Let us know, and why, down in the comments below. Sitting inside the EV6 GT, you can tell that Kia has made it a comfortable, even premium space to be. All the touch points from the steering wheel to the shifter to the controls, they're just a step or two above what you would usually expect out of a Kia model. And I particularly like these synthetic suede and leather seats that are well bolstered and hug you in all the right places. Keep in mind though, they are manually adjustable, but there's plenty of other equipment in this cabin to keep occupants happy. Highlights include a heated steering wheel, heated front seats, alloy sports pedals, 3 USB charging ports up front, a wireless smartphone charger, and interior ambient lighting. To keep things clutter-free, Kia has also implemented this clever solution of using this touch bar to swap functions between the dual zone climate controls and multimedia. There's also a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster that is customizable depending on drive mode, as well as a 12.3-inch infotainment screen with satellite navigation, digital radio, and wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. In the rear, you get 2 USB-C charging ports, seat heating, and air vents, as well as more storage options. It's great that the EV6 has a flat floor and an airy second row, making things a lot less claustrophobic back here. But there are a lack of storage options. You've got door pockets that will hold a bottle, a fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders, and that's about it. There's no back seat map pockets or storage cubbies to speak of. And for family buyers out there, do know that you'll easily fit 2 car seats back here, no problem. Sitting behind my driver's seat, my 6-foot-tall frame has plenty of head, shoulder, and legroom, and you could easily fit 3 adults back here comfortably. Not to be outdone, the Mustang Mach-E GT also has front sport seats that are heated, but these ones are electronically adjustable and also have a memory function, which comes in real handy if your household changes drivers often. But everything else in here feels a little less nice. The leather and plastics are a little bit harder, and this rotary shifter, ugh, it feels less like I'm shifting gears in a $100,000 car and more like I'm turning on an oven. Storage could also be a bit better. I mean, you get door pockets, but they don't really fit a large water bottle standing up. You do get a large wireless smartphone charging tray though, as well as a generous underarm storage cubby. Ford has opted for a 10.2-inch digital instrument cluster, which doesn't sound that much smaller than the Kias, but it's long and narrow and doesn't quite wow like the EV6's does. However, the infotainment screen in the Ford blows out to a massive 15.5 inches and is orientated in portrait form, kind of like a gigantic iPad. Ford trumps Kia here with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto too, as well as a digital radio and satellite navigation, but also features a 10-speaker sound system. Rear seat amenities include vents and charging ports, but these seats don't have any heating. Space in the second row of the Mustang Mach-E is impressive though. Sat behind my driving position, there's plenty of leg room, headroom, and shoulder room. But the center console does eat into foot space for the person sitting in the middle seat. But without anyone here, you've got a fold-down armrest with cup holders, and there's also some storage in the door pockets for your belongings. Other amenities back here include air vents, there's a USB-C and a USB-A outlet, as well as coat hooks. On paper, the Mustang Mach-E easily takes the win here, thanks to its 519-litre boot, as well as a front storage compartment that'll hold 132 litres, which would be the perfect spot for a home charger, if Ford included one. The Mustang Mach-E also has underfloor storage that houses the Type 2 to Type 2 charging cable. If you need every available inch of interior space, the Mustang Mach-E is the one to go for. But the EV6 isn't too far off. With a 480-litre rear boot capacity as well as a 20-litre storage cubby up front, the EV6 can also fit everything that you'll need to carry around. And in my time with both these cars, that meant a full-size pram, groceries, a nappy bag, and plenty more. Keep in mind though, the EV6's boot space is eaten up a little bit by a charging cable case as well as a tyre mobility kit, which means to get big items in here, you might have to do some Tetrising around. Of note, because the EV6 has such sleek styling and slender tail lights, when the tailgate is open, it does expose these sharp corners on the tail lights. So just be careful not to scratch yourself like I did a million times. So far, the Kia EV6 GT and Ford Mustang Mach-E GT have been pretty close in terms of price, equipment, and practicality. But here is where things start to differ, because the EV6 GT is fitted with a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery that is good for a driving range of 424 kilometers when tested on the WLTP standard. The Mustang, however, is fitted with a much larger 91 kilowatt hour battery that'll get you 490 kilometers before needing a recharge. However, the EV6 is built on 800 volt architecture that allows it to charge from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes when using a 350 kilowatt DC fast charger. The Mustang Mach-E needs almost double that at 45 minutes to get the same charge when maxed out on a 150 kilowatt DC fast charger. The caveat here is that a full 350 kilowatt DC fast charger is still pretty hard to come by these days. In my time with both cars, the EV6 GT was averaging 20.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, giving me a theoretical driving range of about 376 kilometers, while the Mustang Mach-E GT averaged 23 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers for a range of about 396 kilometers. The Ford wins here thanks to its longer legs, but keep in mind that a bigger battery also means longer recharge times. In the real world, however, either model boasts an impressive driving range that should get you through most of the week before needing to plug in. All EVs aren't built the same, however, with electric motor outputs also separating this pair. Both have a dual motor setup, one for each axle, which enables all-wheel drive, but in the Kia EV6 GT, you get 430 kilowatts and 740 newton meters, Whereas in the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, there is 358 kilowatts and 860 Newton meters. So, more power here, but more torque there. This translates to a 0 to 100 km/h acceleration time in the Kia of 3.5 seconds and 3.7 seconds in the Ford. Outside the drag strip, this time is useless though. Both models are lightning quick, and with torque available off the line, they will easily slot into a gap in traffic or overtake a slow-moving truck without fuss. You can also change drive modes on either model for either smoother or more violent acceleration. I'll have to call this one a tie. What do you look for in a Grand Tourer? Well, for me, it's got to be comfortable and it's got to be quick. And the Kia EV6 GT has both to spare. Obviously, the instant torque helps with the latter, letting you slot into gaps in traffic or accelerate onto a freeway on-ramp without any fuss. The steering is a little bit too light for my taste, but the grip and traction on offer is outstanding for a 2-ton car. Push it far enough and you will induce bouts of understeer. You can't beat physics after all. And even on these 21-inch wheels, the ride is pretty comfortable, even on Melbourne's rough road surfaces. But what I love most about driving the Kia EV6 GT is the customization. And no, I'm not just talking about the 3 drive modes on offer, which will dial in steering, feel, throttle input, traction settings accordingly. There's also a My Drive setting, which lets you go in and tweak those individual settings on a granular level. There's even an active sound mode, which lets you pick which fake engine noises you want piped into the cabin. Yes, it means you have to pull over and dive into like 5 different menus to tweak this and change that, but it really lets you set up the EV6 GT to your comfort and skill level. It would also be remiss of me to not mention the big green GT button on the steering wheel, which, let's just call it beast mode because it unlocks the full performance potential of the EV6 GT. The Mustang Mach-E might feel less special inside the cabin, but it certainly feels more special when out on a twisty road. The steering, it feels more connected. The suspension, it's a little bit more taut. It's just more fun to throw around a bend. The higher torque output also makes the Mustang Mach-E GT feel more fleet-footed than the EV6, and grip is excellent. The downside though is that the ride is a little bit harsher in this car than it is in the Kia. Even with the adaptive MagnaRide suspension, it just can't quite dial it down enough to the point of being comfortable in here. The Brembo brakes are also way too grabby, with even the slightest input on the brake pedal lurching you forward. This thing would be absolutely colossal on a racetrack, but out on the open road, it's just a bit too much. There is also a lack of customization here. Yes, there are 3 driving modes, but you can only really tweak things like 1-pedal driving on and off if you want to have fake engine noise piped into the cabin, and that's about it. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad driving experience. The Mustang Mach-E GT just focuses on going fast, whether in a straight line or around a corner, and doesn't offer the same breadth of usability as the Kia EV6 GT. Maybe it's fitting Ford has called this electric car a Mustang, because much like the iconic pony car, it's wild and a little bit rough around the edges. Don't get me wrong though, it does have its charms. It's engaging to drive on a twisty road, it's practical for families of 4, and it's quick as lightning. But for $100,000, I want a little bit more than it can offer. The Kia EV6 GT though, well, in my opinion, it's the better buy. It might not be as fun to drive as the Mustang Mach-E, but it's more comfortable, more premium, and just as quick. And at the end of the day, aren't they the best attributes of a GT car? If you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the Drive YouTube channel, and to check out the full written review, head to Drive.com.au.